The debacle that were the UFC 216 win last Friday further highlighted current weight-cutting problems in mixed martial arts. More specifically, in this case, it was in the UFC's lightweight division. A fight between Nick Lentz and Will Brooks was pulled due to Lentz having medical issues, according to a UFC statement, hours before he was due to weigh in. Title challenger Kevin Lee then took to the scale seconds before the deadline and was over the limit by a pound. Fortunately, he made weight after being given an extra hour. But these are not isolated cases, especially at 155 pounds. There isn't necessarily a solution to this problem, but there may be a short-term fix in the form of new weight classes approved by the ABC Association of Boxing Commissions and Combative Sports in July 2017. These include 165 and 175-pound divisions. While not specific to the lightweight division, the problems with weight commonly occur there. In March this year, Khabib Nurmagomedov was rushed to hospital during fight week when cutting down for his title contest with Tony Ferguson. Subsequently, the UFC 209 main event was cancelled. Khabib has been regularly discussed as a title challenger, but he's often struggled to make weight and failed on numerous occasions. With drastic dehydration, it is still unknown what health implications may affect him and other mixed martial artists in the future. Some top-ranked fighters such as Donald Cerrone, Jorge Masvidal and Rafael dos Anjos have moved up to the welterweight division to preserve their health from these strenuous cuts, and have all been relatively successful. Former UFC lightweight Donald Cerrone has looked spectacular since making the move up to 170 pounds. However, many fighters are still reluctant and insist on dropping 1,020% of their body weight in the hours and days leading up to a bout. For example, Kevin Lee was rumored to be 19 pounds over the day before he stepped on the scales. At 170 pounds, welterweight is 15 pounds more than lightweight, which is a noticeable difference between relatively low weight classes. Especially when you consider that the divisions increase 10 pounds from as low as 115 up to 155. There are many fighters who find themselves too big to be a lightweight, yet too small to compete at welterweight. The incidents last Friday should hopefully be a wake-up call to the UFC, who can also set an example for other organizations such as Bellator, ONE FC, and Cage Warriors. So far in 2017, the UFC has lost 14 fights in 48 hours or less before they were due to take place. That is one fight every 2 cards. While weight cutting is not always to blame, more often than not it plays a big role. These situations leave the UFC at a loss, fighters without opponents and a paycheck, and fans disgruntled. Not to mention the health implications for the athlete involved. The UFC must recognize these common patterns, remove the 170-pound welterweight division and create 165 and 175-pound rosters instead. Some may see an additional weight class as devaluing UFC titles even further, but this would not be the case. The UFC's official website only lists 4 fighters in the women's featherweight division. Recently, the women's featherweight title was created without having a roster of women to fill it. However, the difference with lightweight and welterweight is that they are comfortably the 2 deepest, most talent-stacked divisions in the organization. Admittedly, there is a lot of history attached to the welterweight title since Pat Miletic first won it back in 1998. The likes of Matt Hughes and Georges St. Pierre have also added prestige to the belt over the years. Even so, the sport has changed since then and it's in a transitional phase. We are in the era of USADA, the era of banned IV drips and certain commissions tightening their regulations on how much they allow fighters to safely cut. Everyone is accountable and aware of the dangers, yet steps still need to be taken. The athletic commissions and the UFC in particular must act by introducing super lightweight 165 pounds and super welterweight 175 pounds divisions. Perhaps from a fighter's perspective it seems like a no-brainer that their health should be the main priority. From a fan's point of view, there is plenty of talent that could be used in those 2 divisions. The novelty of fighters blending into these classes would also have the feeling of a super fight. The likes of Nurmagomedov, Lee, Masvidal, Cerrone and dos Anjos would certainly fit well into a 165-pound division. Similarly, at 175 pounds, Tyron Woodley could transition from welterweight champion to super welterweight champion. Top talents such as Robert Whittaker, Stephen Thompson, Damian Maia and Robbie Lawler would be perfect matches for this weight. Could we see the current welterweight champion Tyron Woodley compete at 175 pounds in the future? If this was a success, then super middleweight 195 pounds and cruiserweight 225 pounds divisions could be an option in future too. As previously mentioned, this won't necessarily fix the issues of weight cutting, but it gives martial artists another option and is a positive step towards fighter safety. Currently, there has been no mention by the UFC about introducing these new divisions. However, with fighter safety being of utmost importance, these new divisions must be given serious consideration. Irish fans will have to wait a little longer to see James Gallagher fighting on home soil after Gallagher suffered a knee injury in preparation for his main event fight with Jeremiah Labiano in Dublin next month. This bad news was first reported by MMAfighting.com. The 20-year-old from Strabanco, Tyrone, who trains in the famous SBG gym with Conor McGregor and Gunnar Nelson among others, has set the featherweight division alight since joining Bellator in 2016. James the Strabanimal Gallagher has gone 30 with all 3 of his wins coming by rear naked choke. After submitting Shinzo Machida, the brother of former UFC light heavyweight champion Lyoto Machida in Madison Square Garden, Gallagher has become a budding star for Bellator. Due to the youngster's attitude and potential, many comparisons between Gallagher and UFC lightweight champion Conor McGregor have been made by the fans and media, which has made Gallagher one of Bellator's most recognizable names. This notoriety has ultimately led to the young Irishman getting a chance to headline in Dublin this November, but this injury has delayed his rise for the time being. Gallagher on social media Thursday stated that he has suffered an injury to his PCL and LCL in his knee and would be out for the remainder of the year. He has assured fans, "We would return next year and carry on where he started with a Jimmy Show." His longtime rival AJ McKee, who has engaged in a Twitter war with Gallagher after his last fight, will now headline Bellator 187 in the 3 Arena in Dublin on November 10 against Gallagher's SBG teammate Brian Moore. Moore will be making his 3rd appearance for Bellator in this featherweight clash. Matt Inman, who is coming off a win against Brad Wheeler in June, fights Craig White in the co-main event of Cage Warriors 87. Inman will be fighting in Wales for the first time since his stoppage win over Leon Kenge in 2013. The inspiration behind fighting in Wales: because his boss told him so. I got told by Cage Warriors I was gonna be fighting in Wales. That was the main inspiration. I've spent most of my career on the road, so I'm used to fighting away from home. It doesn't bother me one bit. The cage is the same no matter where you put it in the world. Inman says that he has many different ways to win a fight and is confident of challenge ahead. Every fight and opponent brings a different rhythm and challenge. I won't expect anything that was effective in my last fight to necessarily be effective in this one, but I have a deep bag of tools to reach into and I'm confident I have the skill set to get the job done. His opponent for the up-and-coming Cage Warriors 87 is Craig White, a man who has finished all 11 of his wins within the distance. Yet, having such a dangerous opponent, Inman is confident that he is too difficult to submit and too hard to hit, which could eventually lead to his opponent exhausting himself. Not necessarily. I believe in my defense and I'm hard to hit with strikes and very difficult to submit. When an opponent is used to finishing fights quickly, they can oftentimes fade over the distance. This could be the case here. Lewis Long, who is part of the main event for this card, holds a victory over Matt Inman. Inman believes that if both fighters win, they could meet again and that the result could be different. Yeah, if we both win here and Cage Warriors want to make that fight potentially for the title. If Carl Amisu is not going to defend, then I'd be down. Lou Long is a very good fighter and he hammered me when we fought, but I believe I've improved a lot since then. As for the bigger dream, when asked if the English fighter sees a future of being signed by an American promotion, Inman dreams of earning a comfortable living but just loves to fight. Hope so. Love to fight, so don't mind too much where I do it. It's more about the journey of self-improvement for me, but everyone dreams of being able to make a comfortable living doing what they love, and a large U.S. organization might be the only way for that to be truly viable at the minute. Matt Inman fights on the up-and-coming Cage Warriors 87 card Saturday the 14th of October at the Newport Centre, Newport, Wales. The event will be free to air on UK sports channels Free Sports, as well as be on UFC Fight Pass and on BT Sport via the red button. Check the main card out for Cage Warriors 87 below. Lewis Long vs Roberto Soldic welterweight, Craig White vs Matt Inman welterweight, Jack Shore vs Mattia Galbiotti featherweight, Aiden Lee vs Ludovic Klein featherweight, Taran Khalid vs Ross Houston welterweight. It is rare to see a champion in one of the major MMA organizations who has dedicated their life to a successful MMA career while simultaneously earning a living in the traditional workforce. Even rarer still is when the respective champion is a first responder. While it is not uncommon for a fighter to work another job while paying their dues in MMA, the rigorous demands of the police force or fire department seem nearly impossible to juggle along with intense fight camps, followed by grueling bouts against the top contenders the division. Perhaps heavyweights are an exception to the rule. For example, the UFC heavyweight champion, Stipe Miocic, works full-time as a firefighter near Cleveland, Ohio. After traveling to Brazil and defeating then-champ Fabricio Werdum by first-round KO, he stated in multiple interviews that he was back on the job Monday morning. That is dedication. Richard the Black Eagle Odoms, a 16-year veteran of the San Antonio Police Department, has managed to stay very active lately. He fought twice this year and won both times by stoppage, including a June submission win, earning the inaugural Legacy Fighting Alliance LFA heavyweight title and improving his record to 133 in the process. Odoms spoke with MMA Latest ahead of his third fight this year, which makes his first title defense since becoming champion in his last outing. It's a good situation, I can't complain. I worked hard for it, Odoms said with a chuckle. Despite basking in the glory that comes with the championship, he concedes that his next fight will be much harder, at least from a cognitive perspective. There's more at stake. There was nothing to lose last time. Now I have the title and I have to show everybody why. It's a little bit of pressure, but I do well with pressure. Being a champion with LFA can be lucrative for the Black Eagle, but he is not bound by any contractual obligations if the UFC or Bellator comes calling with a good fight offer. But, until that day comes, Odoms is happy right where he is at. With his family and primary career in San Antonio, LFA offers multiple venues in the centrally located Alamo City, such as Houston and Dallas and even Austin. If Bellator or UFC called up, I'd be available. That being said, I like LFA, I've always loved legacy fighting, the LFA heavyweight champion said. Plus, being 42 makes it a little harder to get a fight with UFC, because for some reason they think I can't hang with these young bucks. If an opportunity should arise with UFC, it will most likely come through Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, which Odoms said that he is watching like a hawk, or a black eagle rather. I paid attention to the heavyweights. I feel he'll walk through any of those guys. Listen to the full interview here. Richard Odoms defends the LFA Heavyweight Championship on the 3rd of November against Jeff Hughes, which can be seen on AXS TV or live at the Arena Theater in Houston.